Cruise ship cruise. What's it really like to work and live on a cruise ship? Long working hours. Very small shared cabin with walls thinner than paper, so you can hear everything your neighbors are doing. Crew food is bloody awful unless you like living on boiled rice. Crew bar is very cheap, but also full of creepy guys hitting on everyone and insanely gorgeous girls sneering at everyone. But none of that matters. In 5 years on cruise ships, I literally traveled the world. I went to Europe, Canada, North, South, and Central America, including Alaska and Hawaii, Asia, and China, Japan, and India, Africa. I basically visited every continent except Antarctica and went to over 75 countries. I took a sled dog ride in Alaska, whitewater rafting along a river through the jungles of Costa Rica, visited Alcatraz, had an authentic curry in Mumbai, spent a day on a luxury yacht sailing around the Caribbean, snorkeling at the Great Barrier Reef, visited the Great Pyramids in Egypt, been to the lost city of Petra, spent days in Barcelona, Athens, Rome, Kiev, and so much more. None of the bullshit you have to put up with on board matters compared to that.
That sounds rough with the cramped living and awful food. But it's cool how the experiences made it worthwhile. Traveling the world like that is something most people only dream of. Those adventures, like the sled dog ride and snorkeling, must have been incredible. It's funny how the crew bar's atmosphere can be off-putting but still doesn't take away from the memories you made. Seems like a trade-off worth making for those experiences.
Most of my friends work for cruises. Since we work in technical theater production, it's an easy hire. Cruises are either a great way to save money or an awful one. Your lodging and food is paid for, and you're getting paid, so that's great. But cruises are boring. Sure, cheap booze and free travel is great for the first little while. But after a while, it becomes like Squidward in that episode where he finds his perfect down. So routine, so boring. Wi-Fi is usually anywhere from $5 per day to $10 per hour, and there is no cell service. So, when you're not working, you're trying your best to find anything to do. So a lot of the time you'll start spending money on anything new, and then you're not saving or enjoying yourself. So there's little point. However, many people still enjoy the life of the routine and the travel and figure ways around spending money. Just know, it's harder than you expect to be one of those people. But if you can be, it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I get that. My friend took a gig on a cruise once. At first, it was fun, free food and all that. But after a few weeks, the routine got to him. He ended up just walking around the ship looking for things to do. Not much to explore after a while. And the Wi-Fi costs? Ridiculous. He said it was a decent way to make some cash, but the boredom hung over him like a cloud.
We got crammed in a tiny cabin with 3 other employees, but you have varying hours, so there's people coming and going when you're somewhat asleep, but you worked hard, so you're tired and you might actually sleep. The engine noise tends to be helpful in that regard. Good opportunity to save some money. Great summer work for students. Got to deal with the public well enough to keep smiling. Don't spend too much time talking about the guests, because we all have to get up and do it again the next day. Overall, it was great. Lots of good people and amazing scenery. Things learned. Small ship cruise line that went to Alaska and Mexico, circa 1997-ish.
That sounds like a unique experience. Crammed in a cabin with different work hours must have been tough. The engine noise helping you sleep is interesting. It's cool you got to meet good people and see amazing scenery. Summer work often leads to good memories. Balancing public interaction while staying upbeat is a skill. Those adventures can definitely shape your attitude towards work. Alaska and Mexico must have been incredible places to explore.
Totally depends on which country you come from. My wife and I met working on ships. She's Indonesian, worked 10-month contracts without a day off, 12 to 14 hours a day, and made about $600 a month. Lived in a shared room, ate food that was literally made from the scraps of what passengers didn't eat. never had time to get off ship and port. I'm American, worked 4-month contracts, had a solo room, usually worked about 6 to 10 hours a day, ate with the passengers in the Lido, and made around $3,000 a month. Different roles, but the jobs all have nationalities. On our ships, bartenders were all Filipino except the crew, and officers' bar bartenders were Indonesian.
It's interesting how work conditions vary like that based on where you're from. My friend had a similar experience in a restaurant. He worked long hours for little pay, while others in better positions got more benefits. It really puts things into perspective about opportunity, and how unfair it can be sometimes. Different roles, different lives, but we all hustle in our own way. Everyone's just trying to get by.
The best way I could describe it is this: work hard, play hard, work harder, play harder, diet a little, and do that cycle for almost a year. If you don't find good friends and things to keep you occupied and happy, that isn't sleeping and drinking, you'll hate life in about 2 months. I enjoyed my time there, don't want to go back, but I had a ton of fun and love the experience I got from it.
Sounds like a real grind. Balancing work and play can be tough. It's interesting how friendships and hobbies can make or break the experience. Those moments of fun really stick with you, even if the whole thing feels overwhelming at times. Glad you enjoyed it though. It's all about finding that balance, I guess.
So this thread has been very eye-opening. I'm applying for a very competitive nutrition internship program after I graduate college next May, and I'm currently thinking of backup plans if I don't get accepted. Last week I saw an ad on my Insta feed about dancers wanted to audition for Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, and I realized this could very well be my backup plan. I've danced my whole life, was in a company in high school, and I have a dance minor in college. While dancing is not my career objective, I could very easily see myself auditioning and dancing for a while before returning to my internship plans. On that note, if anyone is a dancer on a cruise line, please let me know so I can ask some questions.
It's interesting how things can shift so fast. You're focused on that nutrition internship, but the dancing opportunity seems to have popped up at the right time. A backup plan like that could keep things fresh. It's good to have options. Dancing on a cruise line sounds like an adventure for sure. If someone has experience, they might have some insights to share that could help you out.
Rain means a lot on a ship. I was only did a few 2-week contracts working on the child care, so I was treated pretty well, but you could easily see some people power tripping because they had a higher rank than someone else. I think a lot of people work on cruise ships because they're either running from something or they want to feel important on board.
It's interesting how rank can shape dynamics on a ship. Those short contracts in childcare must have given you a unique perspective. I remember a friend who worked in a similar role. She often talked about how some crew members acted like they owned the place just because of their title. It makes you wonder about the motivations behind joining such jobs. Some really just want to escape their reality or find a sense of purpose.
Didn't work on one, but my first job out of college was HR for a cruise line. We had one more ship than we had staff to cover them, so lower rankers worked extra shifts to make up. Waitresses routinely worked 18-hour days, with a 3-hour break at midnight and at noon. They would make mad overtime, but also have walking hallucinations, including serving drinks to empty tables. The grueling hours led to a massive personnel hemorrhage, which led to us always struggling to hire more. If you're an officer, though, it's fucking bananas. You can access the guest levels and get a private room.
It's wild how the balance between work and life gets thrown off like that. My buddy had a similar gig on a yacht. Long hours, but he loved the private access perks. He'd tell stories of crew parties, but the strain was real. They'd push through fatigue for the bucks, but it took a toll on everyone, especially with so many leaving. Kind of messed up how it all worked out in the end.
I just want to throw it out there. If you don't want to work on a cruise ship, but want an experience similar to what cruise ship workers experience, fornication, drinking, more fornication, more drinking. Resorts, specifically remote resorts like those isolated mountain lodges. It's like a cruise ship on land.
I get what you mean. I had a friend who spent a summer at a remote lodge. It was all about the parties. People bonded over drinks and late-night chats by the fire. They had outdoor adventures during the day and just let loose at night. The vibe was relaxed, and everyone was there for a good time. Definitely a different kind of getaway, but still had that same carefree spirit.
I don't know how true this still is, but I took a cruise ship around 20 years ago and noticed that the male and female staff appear to be two distinct races. From memory, the guys looked more Kindoff Indian/Sri Lankan, and the women were more of a Southeast Asian appearance. I was told at dinner by a representative of the cruise line that they deliberately hired in this way because these two groups, according to their research, were from cultures where they instinctively found each other less attractive/sexually compatible, and so it helped to limit the amount of shenanigans that the crew got up to.
That's an interesting observation. It's kind of surprising how some companies think about relationships in the workplace. I mean, choosing staff based on those assumptions seems a bit off. But I guess it's their way of trying to maintain order. Makes you wonder what other policies they had. Still, it's a strange approach to managing staff dynamics on a cruise.
Me and my 3 buddies went on a princess cruise about 7 years ago, and the ship was amazing. 5 Diamond, or something, I don't know. But it was super fancy and top-notch everything. But only problem was everyone was like 66 and older, so kinda sucked. Mine and my friend's parents are from the Balkans, and there was a ton of crew member from a few of the Balkan countries, so we made friends with them. They told us how to find the crew's private bar, and told us that there is new crew members all the time, and to pretend like we are on a new contract. We went to the bar once. There was a couple of people there we kind of pussied out left, and just chilled with the old people for the majority of the trip.
Sounds like an interesting trip. The cruise being fancy but filled with older folks must have felt a bit odd. It's cool you made friends with the crew from the Balkans. That private bar idea was tempting, but I get why you guys weren't feeling it. Hanging out with the old crowd could be a unique experience, though. Sometimes those unexpected moments can be the best part of a trip, even if they weren't what you planned for.
My fiancé nearly went to work on a cruise ship and has several old friends that actually did. This is the only true representation of what it's like. I've no idea where people are getting stories of good times and 4-hour working days from. Cruise ship work is very hard. Really long hours and very little free time for very low pay. Thanks for your input and service, /you/Teddersman.
It's interesting how people romanticize jobs like that. I had a friend who spent a summer working on a cruise ship. He talked about the long shifts and minimal downtime, just like you mentioned. It sounded grueling, and he often seemed exhausted. I think people see the fun parts on social media and forget about the reality behind the scenes. It really changes your perspective on those glossy travel ads.
A buddy of mine was a cameraman filming the entertainment shows to be sold to guests later. He ended up marrying a dancer from one of those shows. She's a solid 9, a 10 if you like the extra thin type, and he's a chubby 6 at best with a good personality, but options are limited on a ship, and he was able to lock that down right away.
It's interesting how things play out sometimes. My friend, the cameraman, really had his luck turn when he married that dancer. I guess being on a ship limits the choices, but it's clear he put himself out there and made it work. Sometimes personalities can go a long way, even when looks are mismatched. Just goes to show that connections can happen in the most unexpected places.
Thanks for this, man. I'm jumping on in a month, and it's nice to hear a musician's perspective. Plan on hitting the gym, shedding a ton, and then maybe a little bit of debauchery on the side. I have some side projects I'm looking forward to working on as well. Glad to see that my mind is in the right place.
Sounds like you've got a solid plan ahead of you. Hitting the gym and focusing on your music is a good mix. I remember a friend of mine went through a similar phase, lost weight and picked up a new instrument. It was cool seeing them find that balance between fitness and creativity. It's all about keeping your mind and body in check while having fun along the way.
About the TV, entertainment on ships is like currency, like cigarettes in prison. For 10 years, my sister was a dancer on ships. I'd download loads of TV/movies all year for her. So when she came home between contracts, I'd load up her external HDDs with 200 plus gig of stuff. When she started a new contract, she was immediately everybody's best friend, as she had all the up-to-date TV/movies. She even emailed me once to ask if I could do a load of Clint Eastwood movies on DVD for one of the security guys. No idea what trouble she was trying to get out of, or what favor she was getting, but I posted out 14 DVDs.
That's a solid story. Your sister really had a unique role on those ships. Must have been interesting to see how entertainment became that valuable. Loading her up with content not just made her popular, but also helped her network. I guess everyone has their ways to navigate life at sea. That DVD request is kind of funny, really makes you wonder what kind of deals she was cooking up.
There are some elderly people who will spend the rest of their lives on the ship because it's better than a retirement home. Better food, presumably, more entertainment, etc. I was reading in another comment here that some elderly people go on a cruise to die, which I can definitely understand, but how can people afford to live on a ship for the rest of their lives? It seems like living on a ship would be more expensive than hiring an in-home caretaker, so they didn't need to go to a retirement home.
I've heard about these folks too. I know someone who decided to live on a cruise ship instead of a nursing home. They said it was about the experience, the travel, and meeting new people. It's kind of a unique lifestyle choice. But yeah, I wonder about the costs and how they manage that long term. Must be a mix of savings and maybe some family support.
On my ship, you had to be an officer, a department manager, or an entertainer, such as a soloist, show band singer, or cast performer. I worked in entertainment as well as a technician, and I shared a room with a host, but he was dating a singer, so they were always in her cabin, and I was pretty much alone, which made bringing dates home very easy.
That sounds like a unique setup. It must have been interesting working in entertainment, while having a pretty private space. I can see how having a host who spent a lot of time with his girlfriend would give you some freedom. Those moments probably made it easier to meet new people and have some fun on the ship. Being on a boat with that kind of dynamic must have led to some memorable stories.
Son of a Filipino seafarer can confirm. However, most of these mariners work as crew members in oil and chemical tankers, where pay is higher as the work is more difficult and dangerous. There are those who work in cruise ships, but most are hotel and restaurant management or culinary graduates. Those who work on tankers are engineers.
It's interesting how many Filipino seafarers end up on different types of ships. My friend's dad worked on an oil tanker, and he often talked about the challenging conditions. It's tough work, but the pay is decent. Most of the guys in that field have engineering backgrounds. Meanwhile, the ones on cruise ships are usually involved in hospitality. It's a different world at sea.
Probably not, but you get a free vacation in the time of your life. I do ski/snowboard vacations like this. I work for a tour operator. I am a student, but whenever I'm free, I can just call them up and ask them if they have something for me. Mostly they do, and I get a free week of skiing. My job consists of accompanying the group that week, showing them around, and making sure that they have a good time. It's a sweet deal because it's basically my job to party and ski with them. And I get paid to do that. Not much, but that's not why you do it. The company also offers jobs for the full seasons, but I have no time for that. 1 to 4 weeks at a time during vacations and some weekends is perfect for me.
That sounds like a solid gig. Free trips and hitting the slopes while getting paid to hang out with people is a good way to spend your time. I've had a couple of friends do similar things during college. They would work seasonal jobs and travel. It's nice that you can fit it around studying. Sounds like you're making the most of your breaks, enjoying the snow and the vibe.
Largely Asian, of the southeastern variety. A huge part of the crew is Filipino, Indonesian, and Indian because they make very good money this way. The food mostly caters to them. There's salad and usually fruit or veggies, potatoes, some cafeteria-grade burgers, and bread, which is mostly what I ate.
I remember hanging out with a group of friends from different backgrounds. We often shared meals together. They'd bring dishes from their cultures, like Filipino adobo or Indonesian rendang. We'd mix it up with simple stuff like burgers and salad. It was fun trying new flavors and catching up over food. Those meals were more about the company than the food itself, which made it memorable. Good times.
Don't worry, you're not too old. As long as you're willing to commit for at least 6 months, give it a try. You might love it. Every company has its perks and drawbacks. I never worked in or near the food service areas, so I have no idea how they differ from cruise line to cruise line. Apply with Carnival and Norwegian. Those are the easiest to get into, I think. Don't do drugs and you'll be fine.
I remember when a friend of mine decided to work on a cruise ship. He was nervous at first, thinking he was too old for it. After a bit of convincing, he went for it. He ended up loving the experience. He made friends, traveled a lot, and learned more about the hospitality industry. It's true, committing for a while can really change your perspective. Just stay clear of trouble and enjoy the ride.
Passengers were able to buy the Wi-Fi for the entire cruise, which was cheaper than if you paid for it per day, $5 per day for social plan, or $15 for the 5-day cruise. Guest options for Wi-Fi were better and cheaper than crew definitely. The ship I was on had the new Wi-Fi plan that was just recently rolled out and wasn't fleet-wide yet.
I remember a cruise I went on where the Wi-Fi deal was pretty decent. Everyone was buzzing about it, since overall it was cheaper than if you paid daily. It was interesting to see how passengers had better options than the crew. I found it funny because the ship had just upgraded its Wi-Fi. People were happy to stay connected without breaking the bank. Simple things like that make a trip more enjoyable.
The job they had was the key difference. I've had many friends give me the exact same speech about working on ships. Theater work tends to be a little easier to handle as there is less need for interaction with the clients on board the ship, but that also tends to make it boring. This is all secondhand information from multiple ex-cruise ship technicians I've known though, so a grain of salt may be necessary.
I get the vibe. Friends often talk about their cruise ship experiences. They say it's a different world out there. Theater work seems chill since you deal less with clients, but I can see how it gets dull quickly. I've only heard stories, so I can't fully relate. Still, sounds like a unique life choice for those into it. Hard work, but probably interesting at the same time.
There is definitely a lot of sex in the industry, as well as drugs. In the charter route, I'm not sure how people stick with it. Luckily, the couple I work for now are quiet, but with their own quirks, and they don't charter the boat. It's literally just a portable vacation home for them. I've seen some of those ridiculously lavish ships, the 200-plus FT and everything. Yikes.
Sounds like working in that industry comes with some wild experiences. The contrast between the crazy party vibe and the calm of your current couple must be striking. Living on a boat feels different for everyone, I guess. Those big ships must be both impressive and overwhelming. It's interesting to think about what people really want from that lifestyle.
Ship's engineering officers will be marine/electrical, all about maintaining the ship and its plant/equipment while at sea. Any major structural work or maintenance of specialist equipment will generally get done by contractors in port. Not that that means the ship's engineers won't have to find some way to deal with those problems if they arise at sea. I've seen some incredible jury rig repairs that ship's engineers and crew have managed to put together when something's gone wrong and they haven't got the parts for a proper replacement on board. In lieu of an ingenious solution, it's amazing what people can do with denso tape, zip ties, and ratchets.
It's interesting how adaptability can shine in tough situations. I've heard about ship engineers dealing with all sorts of equipment failures. They can't always get the right parts, so they just make do with whatever's available. It's impressive to see how they can fix things using simple tools like tape and zip ties. It really shows creativity and problem solving when you're out in the middle of the sea.
Us girls had a way of just knowing how had the single cabins, and there was definitely a point system of which one was the better to aim for. Deck 10 officer's cabin was good, but the engineer's cabin with a porthole across the corridor from your own room made the walk of shame non-existent and was significantly easier to get to and from in the early hours.
That reminds me of a trip with some friends. We always had a system for picking rooms. The best ones were close to where the party was, so the late night walks were easier. I still remember the times where we'd sneak back, avoiding the others. It made the experience a lot more fun, kind of like our little secret. Good times with no worries about getting caught. Simple memories, but they stick.
Rando story. My dad's a chef and made buddies with all of the Filipino chefs on the buffet line. One day they saw my dad without my mom and me and asked where we were. We were in the cabin from seasickness. They sent us rice and sinigang to our room, which helped a ton because we couldn't stomach any of the heavier food on the normal menus. Those guys were awesome.
That's a nice story. It's cool how your dad connected with those chefs. They really went out of their way to help you. Sinigang and rice are comforting meals, especially when you're not feeling well. It's great to see that kind of kindness and support in a place like that. Makes the whole experience better, even if you had to deal with seasickness. Good memories from tough times.
I'm sure lawsuits have happened in the past. Sexual harassment and such. All I know is if you're even in the vicinity of a passenger cabin, you have to have a sheet of paper on your person that says you're allowed to be there. When my mom came on board the ship and I wanted to visit her, I had a sheet signed by my boss and my boss's boss.
It's interesting how strict the rules can be. I remember when a friend of mine visited this big event, and he had to jump through so many hoops just to get in. He had to have everything signed off, just like you did. It's a hassle, but I guess it's all about safety and making sure everyone is where they should be. It can be tedious, but necessary.
Hey man, thanks for the reply. That's awesome you play trumpet, because I do too, so your reply are as relevant as they can be. So a question on sight reading. I'm a pretty good sight reader, but I'm usually a one-play through type person to actually get stuff down. Meaning I play through the first time somewhat well, and then I can play it really well from then on out once I know what the song sounds like. Do you think that would be acceptable for a ship, or do I need to work on my sight reading a little more? Also, a question on equipment. Is it just a B flat horn, or do you need a flugelhorn / others as well?
Yeah, I get that. Sight reading can be tough for a lot of people. A lot of musicians go the one playthrough route to nail things down. It's pretty normal. But for a ship, maybe work on it a bit more so you can get comfortable with different pieces on the fly. As for equipment, a B flat horn is generally good, but having a flugelhorn can be helpful for variety. Just depends on what you're playing.
When I was working on ships, I heard stories about some elderly people going on cruise after cruise after cruise, all back to back, all the same ship. Apparently, it can be cheaper to live on board a ship than it is to be checked into a retirement home. Not sure what the truth is there, but it sure sounds plausible enough.
That's an interesting take on retirement. I can see how living on a cruise ship might appeal to some. You get to travel, meet new people, and enjoy a different routine every day. Plus, if it really is cheaper than a retirement home, it's a win-win for those who want to enjoy their golden years. It's kind of fascinating how folks find creative ways to live their lives.
Well, cheaper, yes, but consider the reason somebody goes into assisted living, which most likely is because they need the round-the-clock care those places offer. My grandma, for example, spends about $5,000 a month on the nursing home, but with that comes 24/7 doctor and nurse care, plus food/housing, etc.
I get that. My friend's mom went into a similar place. It wasn't easy, but she needed the care. The monthly cost is high, but they could never provide that level of support at home. It's not just about the money, it's about what they really need to stay safe and healthy. It's a tough choice, but sometimes it's the best option for everyone involved.
You want a serious answer? It varies from country to country, but the process is either sailing for years as an unlicensed crew member and earning enough time to gain the knowledge needed and the minimum sea time required to sit for your license test, or you graduate from a maritime academy with a license. Edit, by sail for years, I mean it has to be in the same department. You would have to sail as an unlicensed member of the deck or engine department. You can't sail as an entertainer and work your way up to being an engineering officer.
It's interesting how different paths lead to the same result. A friend of mine took the long way, spending years as an unlicensed crew member just to learn the ropes. He talked about the experience and how it built his skills. Meanwhile, another guy went straight to maritime school. Both have their merits, but I think the hands-on experience really shaped my friend's understanding of the job. Each approach has its own lessons.
And then you really wish Dutch law applied on that part of the kingdom. It's illegal in the Netherlands proper to do randomized drug testing unless your work directly is related to safety aspects, and even then you can only test for drugs currently active in someone's system. So no testing for cannabis traces.
It's pretty interesting how laws vary. In some places, random drug testing is strict and only allowed in specific jobs. It makes you think about people's rights and privacy. It's probably up to the company culture, too. I remember a friend dealing with that at his job and how it caused a lot of discussion among coworkers. Just shows how diverse regulations can be even in the same nation.
I worked at a hotel for a while. A couple of US were drinking at the bar there, off shift and in our street clothes. One of the female guests started hitting on a friend of mine and gave him her room key. Our manager, who was really cool and had been drinking with us, basically told him if he went up there, he'd be fired. He got fired, but he says it was worth it.
That sounds like a wild night. Honestly, working in that kind of environment can lead to some pretty unexpected situations. Your friend took a pretty big risk, but I guess some people just see it as part of the experience. Getting fired might seem serious, but sometimes those moments are what people remember the most. It's just one of those stories that sticks with you, you know?
You should also look up doing seasonal work in the national parks within the US. I spent a summer as a server in Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming/Montana and got to explore some of the most beautiful mountains in the country. Yosemite, Glacier, Grand Teton, and Grand Canyon National Parks also all have similar setups with employee housing and meals included. The national parks in Alaska do as well. Ski resorts in the winter do the same sort of thing, many of them including ski passes for employees.
That sounds interesting. A friend of mine worked at Yellowstone too. He enjoyed serving people while getting to hike in those amazing mountains during his free time. He said it was a unique experience being so close to nature and meeting folks from all over. The whole setup with housing and meals made it easy to focus on exploring. Ski resorts in winter seem like a similar vibe, but with snow instead of mountains.
Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.